welcome to PresentERs. Okay, so today's presentation is by me. So welcome everyone. Let me just bring up my presentation. Hopefully I had it all working earlier. That's always, okay, there we go. Okay, can everyone see okay? Yes, good, good, good. Okay, all right, so yes, 9,000 books in a Kyoto machiya. Building and running a big ER library in a small school. So I'm Sandra Yamane, and I'm the owner and teacher at Three Tigers English in Kyoto near the beautiful Kamo River. We're a small school specialising in private and small group lessons, and we currently have around 40 students at any one time, so not a huge amount, and over 9,000 books. So in addition to running the school, of course, I'm currently membership chair of the ER-SIG, so I apologise for sending out emails to people asking them to renew their membership, but that's also me. Okay, so getting started, hopefully, oops, there we go. All right, so this is my mum. So she was a primary school teacher my entire life. I grew up with books. When I was sick, she took me to school, put me at the teacher's desk. I read and watched her lessons. She regularly took me and my brother to the library to get books. I always had piles of books next to my bed. I loved helping the librarian at school. That was a great thing that I did. When scholastic book clubs came to the school, we didn't have much money at home, but my mum let me buy anything I wanted, and that was amazing. So I created my own little library when I was still at elementary school, and I even made a card catalogue, typing things up. I made library cards for my friends so they could borrow books. I had a library, and it was my mum who created this lifelong love and respect for books. And those books and the love of books helped me learn. And that's what I want to share with my students. I want them to be able to grow up with books. So how did I get where I am? First thing, so I got my Cert TEFLA certificate for teaching English as a foreign language to adults in New Zealand many moons ago. And then after being in the workforce for a while, I went back to university and studied Japanese language and literature. I went on a bit of a holiday for a month to Japan and decided I really wanted to go back. So I did the last semester of my degree as an exchange student in Kumamoto University. That was in 2006. I was supposed to go back to New Zealand and continue my studies, but I ran out of money. So I stayed in Japan, and I moved to Kansai, and I taught eikaiwa, regular old eikaiwa, for about 3 years. Then I got a job at a Japanese juku. Notice the contrast. The students there are less friendly and rambunctious, but I learned a lot during that time. I was the co-head of the English department. We had a native section and a Japanese section, and I managed the native teaching staff, and it was a really good experience. I was able to design the curriculum, research, do all sorts of reading, and that's how I discovered extensive reading. So I read about it. I wanted to do something at the juku, but they didn't really, that wasn't their thing. So I started a school. So I actually had a lot of private home tutoring students, and I rented a place and I had them come to my school. But it took me another year before I quit my job at the juku. So I was doing sort of double duty, and I started the school. So that was 2014. So next year will be the 10-year anniversary, Lordy. So yeah, that's how I got where I am. But library tour, welcome to the library. Okay, so we have 3 rooms of books at my school. This is the back room. The back room is for younger readers. The back room has picture books, it has board books, it has books for native English speakers as well as graded readers or leveled readers. There are phonics books here. We've got the core Oxford reading tree up to stage 4 in the back room, and Read and Imagine, and also Collins Peapod readers, which we added last year to the library and which have been absolutely wonderful. Also popular Elephant and Piggy and Pigeon and things like that. So it's a bigger room, more room for young kids to kind of be young kids, to move around. The middle room. Okay, so our middle room is the upper intermediate to high level native books, native English books. The popular series here, the Who Was series, the Usborne Young Reading, the regular Macmillan, Cambridge, Oxford, Penguin Readers, all that sort of stuff. But also some more interesting meatier books for the higher level students. There's also a kotatsu in the room, so during the winter we can use that. Can be a bit of a problem trying to get the kids out from underneath the kotatsu, because we do use this as a waiting space, or kids doing homework, that kind of thing, or parents who are waiting for the younger kids. Then we have the front room. So our front room is for high beginner and intermediate level readers. And this is the most used room. It's also where I spend a lot of my time. This is where I teach. So books here range from a Yomi Yasusa, I'll talk about that soon, 5 to about 25. It's very intermediate, and all the main series are here. So Oxford Reading Tree from level 5 up, the Dominoes, Penguin Readers, all the usual stuff. I Talk, You Talk Press, and Pōmaka books, of course. And for younger readers, there's Project X from Oxford, the Ellie Young Readers, Black Cat, Easy, what do they call them? Easy Reads and Green Apple, that kind of thing. We also have a lot of non-fiction texts as well. So Oxford Read and Discover, the In Fact and Treetops non-fiction, Footprint Reading Library, those kind of things. All that's in there. So most students read these books, young, old, adult, primary, even high-level students. We encourage them to read lower-level books with colour and pictures and interesting subjects. And for me, the golden rule of extensive reading is that reading should be fun. So this room is by far the most fun room, and it has a beanbag chair. So everyone loves a beanbag chair, so that's also a bonus. Okay, organising. So there's a lot of books. How's the library organised? Well, as I mentioned before, Yomi Yasusa. So we roughly organise this into Yomi Yasusa, the YL levels, which was a system that Akio Furukawa had developed. And it was really great basis for starting organising the library. We colour code all the books, as you can see. They're color coded with tape into bands, and I use vinyl tape 5 centimeters from the bottom of the spine just to keep it neat and tidy, though these don't look particularly neat on this screen. There are a lot of books that we've just kind of guessed and put them in broadly into that kind of band, so we know that this light blue color is a good area for these books. We use this color code system. So from a white, which is books with no words, to the dark green, which is a YL of 70. So normally when you're talking about Yomi Yasusa, there's a decimal point, like it's a 1.2 or a 4.5, but that seemed ridiculous to me. And I think it was Ben Sharon, thank you, who suggested just taking the decimal point out. Much easier. So that's what we do. So every book has a sticker with a series name, a YL, and a word count. So, for example, here, the Ellie Young Readers Stage 2 book. We have an Excel database that has all the books that we have listed with their word count, and we've currently got just over 9,000 individual titles. So that's not counting for duplicates, which we do have. All right, borrowing the books. So every student reads at home every week. Most students read at least 3 books. Depends on their reading level and motivation. Higher level students can read longer books, but as we probably all know, they tend to also enjoy shorter books. We use the SEG Juku Tadoku Techo, the ER notebooks for the younger readers to record their reading, but only the younger readers. But every student their reading is recorded. So we use an Excel spreadsheet. We check the books out, check them back in, and keep an eye on how many books and how many words are being read. This one is for what is she? She is now Year 2 senior high school. She's been coming to the school for 5 years. She's almost at 1 million words. And considering she started with very low level, quite impressive. She's doing well. So during the pandemic, we went online, and we still have some students online. So we had to deal with different ways to get books to students. One way we found was click post. So students choose books online, and then we can post the books out to them, and then they can either bring them back or post them back. Very handy. What is it, 185 or 86 yen for up to 1 kilo of books, which is very good. Okay, so how reading fits into the lesson. Beginner students of all ages read in class with the teacher. Students and teacher, they read together, and sometimes the student reads all the text. Most often we take turns, page each if it's short, or a paragraph each, but we all read together. Sometimes it's useful for the teacher so that they can comment on elements of the story or clarify the meaning of some words, generally check for understanding. And even older students are encouraged to read short, fun picture books. We also have the Oxford pen, which students who have less confidence or experience reading, we lend this to them so that they can practice at home, and that's quite a useful tool. Only for the low-level students, though. We also do intensive reading in class, so especially junior, senior high school, use the Cengage Reading Explorer series. Okay, homework. This is how we do it. So we have what we call reading review. So 5 minutes built into the class time for reading review. Students return books. We ask them, what did you think of the books? Older students, more articulate students, they can talk about specifics, but younger students, we usually say, okay, this book, was it easy, okay, or difficult? And then they can just tell us. And then we say, which book had the best pictures this week? Which book had the best story this week? And then we might look at a story, we might look at a picture and talk a little bit more about it. We encourage them to be honest. If they didn't like the story or weren't interested in the subject, that's no problem. There are no repercussions for not reading a book you don't like. Okay, so book selection. We give students small piles of books, usually from the same series, and they choose the book that they want from that small pile. So they always get to choose their books. So we just say, one book from this pile, one from here, one from here, one from here. And we try and balance out the selection, not all fiction, not all non-fiction. If you're going to have something that's a comic or a graphic novel, just one of those. We don't want to have them all comics. So having a balance. Now, we want them to read below their level, of course, as part of extensive reading rules or things that we believe in. We don't want them using a dictionary, but we also don't discourage students who want to borrow books that are way above their level, because we want them to be interested in the books. We may not count all of those things towards their word count, but even if they read 1 or 2 words, that's a win. So being interested in the books is really important. Students don't have quizzes. They do not do book reports. They are encouraged to read for pleasure, for interest only. And what's really good at the school is that every student knows that they are expected to read. They know when they start here that everyone at the school reads. They know that the teachers read these books. And that's a really important thing, having a reading culture, which we have developed. Now, we also have for younger students something that we call Read to Me. We use Flip, which used to be called Flipgrid, which we started using during the pandemic. And younger students are asked to read for 2 minutes. They get a book, they choose one of their books, and they have to read out loud. And for students who are like returnees or have higher level English, they read and then have to say why they chose to read that passage. But for younger kids, they just have to read for 2 minutes. And the beauty of Flip is that there are lots of filters and avatars and shiny things that they can sort of decorate their reading video with. And it gives us a chance to really monitor their progress with pronunciation and fluency. And none of it is corrected. It is purely for us to monitor them. And very important with younger readers, it's a way of making sure they actually pick up a book, because quite often they leave things to the last moment and you're not quite sure, have they actually read everything? We usually know, but at least we know one book they actually did pick up and have to read. So it's quite a good way of monitoring homework. All right, so we don't just do reading. We need things to complement the reading. One thing we do is vocabulary study. We use vocabulary books to learn new vocabulary every week. I use an iPad flashcard app to introduce the vocabulary from the book, and we talk about it. We look at the pictures and really engage in the vocabulary. Then they do a Moodle quiz, because yes, we use Moodle. Our school, everybody is on Moodle, and that's how we deliver our homework. and they do a Moodle quiz for the vocabulary unit that they have studied during the week. So basically, we want to equip the students with more vocabulary to help them read more, of course. Writing, we also do writing. So the writing that we do, we start every student as soon as they are able to make basic sentences, we do free writing. So the student gets a topic. Younger students get one word like carrots or, I don't know, school lunches, 2 words. And they have to write for 5 minutes, no stopping, and there's no erasing. They don't worry about grammar. They don't worry about spelling. It's just a fluency exercise. Older students, we give a little bit more of a meaty topic, like, you know, somebody's arriving at your school in a helicopter and coming into the class. Who is it? What questions are you going to ask them and what happens? So they have to write for 5 minutes on that topic. So that's free writing. Students also do homework writing. They're given a topic and they write at home and they produce work like this. They're allowed to use dictionaries, but not translation software. Bit of a struggle with the junior high kids recently, but we'll get there. They submit the homework on Moodle. They take a photo, upload it. We edit. We don't correct. We edit and give suggestions. And in class, we give feedback. And then the following week, they have to rewrite. And then we do a hard edit, corrections, so that they have a chance to review their work. And it's a really important way for us to see them using some of the vocabulary that they're learning by reading and studying the vocabulary. Okay, so tips for building a library. This is a bit tricky, but number one, I would say start with some core series. So we're very lucky with reading books in English. There is so much to choose from now, way more than when I started. So your Oxford Reading Tree, the first 3 stages I'm not so keen on. Collins Peapod readers, they are wonderful for younger learners, designed for English learners, not for native speakers of English. Ellie Young readers, Oxford Dominoes, Penguin readers, all the main series, they're all good. If possible, buy series of books. Don't just buy one. It doesn't matter how amazing a book is. The chances of somebody actually reading it are a lot lower if it's just one book. But if you've got a series of books that the students can read through or choose one from, it encourages them to read more. Buy books for current students' interest. So when you can plan an epic, balanced and expensive library, but you need to have reading material for your current students. Start there. Find out what their interests and needs are and work around that. Balance fiction and non-fiction. So some students, they like only reading fiction or only reading non-fiction, but we want to challenge them to expand their reading. So we want to provide options for both. Include graphic novels and comics. Oh, yes. There are a lot of good graphic novels, and it makes content a lot more accessible for young and adult and anything in between. So here's a few books that we have in our library. Of course, Dogman. Not a fan myself, but very popular with the young ones. Heartstopper. Oh my God, that was great. So yes, include pictures as much as possible. Buy secondhand and cheap. So a lot of my books have been purchased secondhand. So we're very lucky in Japan to have access to good quality secondhand books. Book Off often has secondhand graded readers, especially in university areas. Merukari, great place to buy secondhand, though beware of cheap Chinese knockoffs. Sometimes the quality can be a bit shoddy. And keep an eye out for sales at local bookstores. So in Kyoto, we have Maruzen, and they at least once a year have like a foreign book sale. And I come out with a pile of books from that. That's always fun. And know your library. Number one, get to know the books in your library. You can only help your students to read when you have actually read the books and know what's in them yourself. So that would be my number one tip for running a library. Okay, so my goals. Oh my God, better library organization. This is something that I really need to do. I mean physically and digitally. So physically, I'm running out of space. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Need to find more space. But also digitally, my library management system, Excel, does the job, but it's not ideal. So with the books increasing, that's something that's definitely I need to do in the future. I have audio available for so many books and CDs and downloads, and I really want to do something with that. I want to incorporate extensive listening into my students' daily use, but I just haven't had time to be able to set up a system. So that's definitely on my list. SSR, sustained silent reading. I want kids to be reading at school. So I've seen that at SEG Juku, and I had the good fortune to go up to Sendai, to Cambridge English School, Ben Sharon's school up there, or his wife's school, and they also incorporate that in their extensive reading program. Wonderful. Currently, we just don't have the space for it, but that's something I would like to incorporate. And I would also like to spread the word about the benefits of extensive reading. So presentations like this one and others we've had at PresentERs every month, conference presentations, JALT ER forums. There are so many wonderful people saying wonderful things, and I really want to see that just increasing. And of course, with that in mind, yes, presenters, people, we want to hear about lots of different people's presentation ideas. We want to hear about your experiences with extensive reading. It doesn't have to be research that you've done. It can be, but what do you do? Why do you do it? How do you do it? If you want to share, please consider presenting yourself. And of course, these events are made possible by the volunteers who run the extensive reading special interest group, the ERSEG at JALT. So please consider joining JALT and our ERSEG so that you can help grow our community of people who are passionate about extensive reading. So that's my little plug. And with that, I will stop my share and say thank you very much for listening to me rabbit on about my books. So, okay, now I see there's a few questions. If somebody wants to ask away, perhaps Pat, would you like to be moderator in chief?
All right. I just had one quick question. At the beginning of your talk, you mentioned board books, and I'd never heard that term before. Does that mean kind of like the hardcover books like Waddle?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Books that little kids can chew on and they don't completely destroy them. So, yes.
So it's a bulletproof book for kids.
Yeah, it's saliva-proof books for children. So, yeah, they can chew on them and that's good. But there's also...
Okay, the one where the pages are also boards.
Yeah, the pages
Gotcha.
themselves are like thick pieces of cardboard. So, yeah, we have a few of those. A lot picked up secondhand. So, yeah.
And Kimberly had something in the chat as well about egging you on to publish something with your results from your students reading. You want to step in and take the mic, Kimberly?
Yeah, I was just thinking, because you have like all of these Excel spreadsheets of your students like cumulative reading data, and I'm sure that there is some kind of measurement that you were doing about their English level progress. And so I thought that, you know, you might just like to contribute something to that space, given that there's only sort of one study that I really know of, like the Nishizawa et al. Studies.
Yeah, that
So,
actually does interest me a lot. Quite frankly, up until the pandemic hit, we didn't kind of keep track of things as much. As soon as the pandemic hit, we went online, we had to keep track of things a bit more. So that's kind of a new thing, and we haven't really compiled a lot of the data, but that's something I definitely would like to do, because I think it is valuable. A lot of research that I've seen, rightly so, is university programs, and in a university program you might have 30 to 100 students all reading, similar age, and they do it for maybe 1 semester, 2 semesters, if you're lucky 2 years, but that even, you know. But I have students here who have been doing it for 5 years, and I have seen, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. So like this one student, actually I showed her Excel spreadsheet. So she's in her 2nd year and at senior high school, and she started here in the last couple of months of her elementary school before she started at junior high. And apart from I think she had about a 4-month break when she was doing juken at the end of junior high, but the whole time she's been reading, and she started out so low, and now she's reading native English texts for young kids. She's reading The Notebook of Doom, which if anyone has read is quite entertaining. She's a big manga reader in Japanese, so she enjoys reading that in English, and she's also very good for suggesting books for me to buy. But being able to see someone for 5 years, to see how they grow, has been quite amazing, and that's something that you can do in a small school environment that you can't do at university. So
because I remember, I can't find it now. I've been looking for the information or the link, but I know that one of the teachers or Japanese people I used to work with in Japan sent me a link to a newspaper article about a primary school age student who had passed like Aiken, one of the top Aiken levels, just by reading. So
yeah,
I was put in mind of that, and I was like, oh, you know, like it could be, you know,
yeah, I'll try
another
and
piece of evidence.
yeah, I'll try not to get too negative on it, but Aiken sucks.
Yes,
And
it does.
we do prepare students for Aiken, but yeah, just as soon as you said that, I just picture these parents forcing their poor small child to try and read well above their comprehension level. You know,
No,
just,
I don't
yeah,
think it was. I think it was a different situation to a normal, where she was like very interested and passionate about reading, and because I remember reading that newspaper article, and
okay.
she seemed very enthusiastic.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
there are some kids who really, really enjoy reading, and that's a huge thing, because, you know, that's half the battle. If they don't read, that's always going to be a bit of a battle. But we also have students who don't really read in Japanese. They don't really read in their own language, but they will read in English. So they're probably reading more in English than they're reading in Japanese, which I always find quite interesting. But that's part of what I was saying about building a culture of reading. Everyone here knows they're supposed to read. So there's no, you know, trying to convince anyone. If you don't want to do this, you can just go somewhere else, sing some pretty little songs at an eikaiwa somewhere. But yeah, we have that culture here. So, but yes, I would love to do some research. Time, if I have time.
Okay. I think not only do you have the students for a long time, but you mentioned that say in university, teachers have about 35 students, and often they have 10 sections. So they're dealing with 350 or so students per semester, sometimes maybe 700 students a year, and they don't have as close a connection with their students. So in a lot of cases, their understanding of their students' reading is purely quantitative.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one really amazing benefit that we can get that quantitative and qualitative data. So yeah, and that's what we do. It's not just assign the books, return the books, get new books. We talk about the books. We really engage. We build time into classes to do this. And that makes a big difference, being able to get to see, he didn't really like that, or she really doesn't like that, or wow, maybe some more unicorn books would be good for her. So yeah, we are able to do that. So yeah, you're quite right.
So if
You
you
should,
ever
oh,
think
sorry.
about, if you ever think about kind of bringing this qualitative side into a research project, maybe keeping some notes on the students so that you can kind of look back, and instead of have to rely on your memory for 5 years previous, you can say, this is what's been happening over the time. But I know time.
Though I do remember most of the students. I mean, you know, I've got data.
I don't mean remember the students, I mean remember the minutia
right
of this
yeah.
week, this month.
Yes. Well, we keep class notes. So like every class, after the class, we keep notes. There are two teachers, myself and another teacher. We make notes of everything that happened, the books that we used, the homework, what they did, what was said, things that came up. So I do have notes available for all classes for the last 10 years. So
I was going to suggest that you do a qualitative methodology article about how you do language program integrated extensive reading in your language school.
Sounds good. Time.
Make time. Go on, Sandra.
If only we could get more hours into the day. That was
I know. We should switch to a 30-hour day. 30 hours.
Only if I can sleep for half of it, though. That's that's the other problem.
Oh, Jean, did you have a question? Go for it.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, Sandra. That was really interesting.
Thank you.
I missed the first few minutes, but really loved what I heard. So your school, you probably said in the first few minutes, but your school is your class. These are only reading classes, or?
So we are 4 skills. We're definitely a 4 skills store.
So would it be a 1 hour class, and it's
70 minutes is the usual. Younger students 60 minutes, or real beginners who don't have much English, even if they're a little bit older. But 70 minutes we find, I know it sounds strange, but that extra 10 minutes allows us to do things like reading review and those kind of things, and still be able to get a good solid hour. And we do vocabulary study, we do writing, we do grammar where needed. Yeah, we do all the skills. And very much when I was setting everything up, 4 nations, 4 strands, of course, had a big influence about how I was thinking about things, and that's certainly guided some of it as well.
So about the flip, that was a homework, is it? But they have
yeah.
I don't know flip, but they video themselves reading for 2 minutes. Is that what it is? Yeah.
So like on Moodle, which is our learning management system, so they have a link, they just click it takes them to the flip thing, then they can just hit record and sit in front of the camera on the computer, on the smartphone or whatever, and add their shiny filters, and then then they just have to go back to Moodle and type I did it and submit it. So
So you're getting a video of them reading aloud.
yep, it's been very interesting, especially the young boys seeing their voice drop all of a sudden, going from so over the years it's kind of interesting seeing them grow up in video. Pat, yep.
I just wanted to add for Jean that Flip previously was known as Flipgrid, so you might know it by that name.
Yeah.
And the videos that Sandra's talking about, kind of, they go up into a central classroom and they're visible to Sandra, but also the other students. And the students can post reaction videos to their classmates' videos. So that's one of the really nice parts about Flip, is that students can share their book, not only to share how they understood it, but also to help their students find good books, or help their classmates, I should say.
We used to use it a lot more during the early stages of the pandemic, when we weren't in a classroom, and we used to use it a lot for kind of writing. So we would start a story. I would give a start of a story and then say, and then the next student has to write their part of the story and then read it on there. And then the other student say, and then the other person has to listen to that, write their thing. And then, so we do a round robin of storytelling. So not just, we used to use it for more, but now we do a lot of that in the classroom. So yeah.
We don't have Flip, but we have another system that I could get them to do video homework like that. Yeah,
it's good. I mean, Flip is it's not the best, it's not the worst, but it's free.
Yeah, right.
And they sent me a email a couple of days ago saying congratulations on your 1,000th video. So apparently my students have now done 1,000 videos. So wow. That's a lot of data that they're not charging me for yet. Oh my God, touch every piece of wood I can possibly touch, because that'll be coming probably. So yeah.
And I don't know if I can ask another question, or maybe Paul has a question he wants to ask, or okay, I'll just go quick here. So about the writing, you said, for example, carrots, younger kids might get carrots. So how old would they be, and what would they write about carrots?
So the age, so we have so free writing, we call it 5-minute writing for elementary students, free writing for the older, essentially the same thing, but any student who is able to make a sentence, they do free writing or 5-minute writing. Carrots, I like carrots. Carrots orange. Bunnies eat carrots, so I really like bunnies. They're really cute. When I think of carrots, I think of going in the garden or digging things up. Anything that comes into their mind. It's like just a stream of consciousness of weird, wonderful, random things. So
would these say, like, would carrots be age 10 to 14 kind of, or?
Oh no, we're talking like I mean, the youngest would be probably grade 3 probably.
And they could write about they could write like that at that point. Wow.
Some, like not all. Like I say, the real beginners of their language study beginners, perhaps not, but as soon as they can, yes. And we do have a lot of returnees, or I hate the term, but returnees, or I don't know, semi-returnees, which is like their older sibling went to school overseas, but they were still like a, I don't know, 3-year-old going to preschool. So they grew up around their older sibling, speaking English, but they're not a real returnee themselves. So we tend to call them high-level kids. So there's no label. It's a bit tricky labeling things, but those students have a lot more of an advantage of being able to think freely and write freely.
I'm just thinking of, I teach at a junior high and high school, and of doing something like that in junior high, but I don't know what the kids could really produce.
Oh no, they can definitely do it. We have junior high school students, low level, and even if they just start with so like carrots, I like carrots. Carrots are orange. Just really like 5 sentences. That's how they start. But the idea is that they get used to doing it every week.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no excuse. We have our lovely little timer here that we use. So which counts down 5, 4, 3 minutes left. And they just do the writing. They're used to it. It's a really good way of just also it's a good break for the teacher because we get 5 minutes. During that 5 minutes, I usually on my iPad do a bit of class report writing, but also it breaks the flow of the class. So we try and keep this section here, this section, this, so we do reading review as one section, writing is one section, vocabulary is one section, keeping variety, pace. So yeah, definitely junior high. Oh my God, yeah, they should be writing.
Yeah, well, yeah, we do writing, but I don't know. It would take a while to have that happen, but I'd like to try it. Yeah, and then they share the writing with people is how it goes, or
no,
they don't share. No,
generally speaking, they have to upload it onto Moodle, so we have a record of it. And for some classes, we get them to read it out. Usually that happens when you're just starting and I write too. So like when we first begin, I'm doing it as well. So that I'm modeling what needs to be done. And then I read out what I wrote, they read out what they wrote, and it's a shared experience rather than them having to do homework or having to do, not homework, and work in class. But once they get used to it, then I can do my own thing while they're writing. So yeah, I'd say give it a shot. It's really good. I used to do it at the Juku with all the students there. So that's kind of how it started. It's kind of morphed into something a little bit better, I think, now, but definitely started with the Juku, and they were all regular students, junior high. So yeah. Okay, now who's next? Pat, what's going on?
So Paul has a question about Yomi Yasusa.
Oh, go for it, Paul.
Oh yeah, it's not a big deal, to be honest. But Sandra, I really liked your talk, and I love how you created this amazing reading culture in your school, and that sort of thing you can't do overnight. It takes so long to get the mindset of enjoying reading, and as opposed to doing practice tests. But yeah, I was just curious why you decided to organize your library according to Yomi Yasusa. I know that each publisher has their own leveling system, and it's all over the shop. But as far as in my experience, one sort of common thread with the publishers is usually something like headwords. So I was just curious why you went with Yomi Yasusa.
Yeah. Well, you kind of answered your own question, which is each publisher is all over the place. They're leveling. Basically, to start with was because there are so many books that have already been categorized according to YL with SEG and those published on the ER Foundation website as well. So there was already a lot of material there that I could quickly and easily just do that. And then now I'm not sure, a lot of the books, especially books that are not graded readers, books that are for regular young learners or people from overseas, the data is not available readily, but I have more of an idea of what, I don't know, book band, I guess you could say it's in, and I think that's been very useful. So it's kind of morphed from the YL to more of a, we know if you're reading this level, go and look at the yellow books, and then they can kind of look within that. So it was a convenient way to start, but it's kind of grown into something possibly a little bit different now.
Right, yeah. I just I mean, if you look at the back of most graded readers, they don't usually say the Yomiyasa level, right? It's usually
No,
like
they
Sefer
don't.
or headwords or something like that. So, but I mean, now you've got a really good idea of your own system, so it probably makes sense.
I was just going to say, just going to check your books actually. I know your books are generally in the yellow section. I think I have. I'm just quickly checking now. So yeah. By the way, very popular. Stranger in Japan and the Breaking Free series, both very popular with everyone who's read it.
I noticed your reader who read the 900,000 words. She read the was it Stranger in Japan series?
Yep, she's just finished.
I'm stoked.
Oh, she's already done the Breaking Free series, and then
great.
she's done Stranger in Japan as well.
I'm sorry, I don't put Yomiyasas on my books, so I was just sort of
I've got your Breaking Free series at a 14, and I've got Stranger in Japan at an 18. Though I might redo those, but yeah, that's what I have for. And the Night Delivery I've got down as a 9. Just FYI.
Okay, yeah, no, it's interesting.
Yeah,
I love the library though. It's amazing. I was thinking when you first mentioned it, you said 900 books. I was like doing the math, 900 times 1,000 yen kind of thing. And then you said
9,000. Yeah.
Sorry, 9,000 times 1,000. Wow. But you're getting a lot of them secondhand, which is great.
I mean, things have changed. The pandemic changed a lot. I used to get a lot of books, more books from Book Off, but when all the foreigners disappeared, the foreign books also disappeared. University students went online, and there are a lot more X-reading, so not so many physical books.
Right.
And tourists selling off books as they were leaving the country, that disappeared as well. I used to get books from what's it called? Book Outlet. It's a Canadian/American. I think they in Canada but post in America. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, around Niagara area. So, they have a lot of remainder books from all over North America, and I used to get like boxes of that because you could get books so cheap. They do not send overseas anymore. So a lot of things changed, and books are so much more expensive now.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Now, where are we up to on the?
I had a question about a series.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned what was it? Collins Pea Pods as being a good series, but I'm not familiar with it. Do you have it within reach of you?
I don't actually. It's in the other room, but I can get that and show you at some stage. But Paul Goldberg recommended it, and he said, "Have you seen it?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And so I thought, "Oh, that's a new series," and had a look and thought, "Oh, that's good." So I actually ordered the entire series directly from Glasgow in Scotland, and I had that shipped over to Japan. And at that time, which was last year, there's one university library in Japan has the series, but other than that, it was just me. So they really haven't made great inroads into Japan, but I really think they should. It's really, really good. On par, possibly better than the Oxford Reading Tree in terms of language use. Not as amazing as Biff, Chip and Kipper, but definitely in terms of language use. So yes, they are very, very good.
You said you didn't like the first 3 levels of ORT so much?
Yeah, no, it's just the language is just not suitable for foreign language learners. I don't really need to know about pond dipping or poo sticks or very specific British things. The language is just not. It's not a graded reader. It's a leveled reader, and because of that, it's introducing vocabulary that I don't think is very good at earlier stages. So I would prefer to use the Oxford Read and Imagine the first three, I think they've got early readers, beginners, and something else. I use that kind of in that gap. And then once they get a little bit more vocab under their belt, then I'll definitely go back into the reading tree.
Are the Collins ones that Patrick asked about and that you mentioned, are they for young
Yep.
beginner readers as well? Yeah.
They are for young beginner readers. You wouldn't want to have an adult reading them, but you can probably do junior high, up to junior high, because they're a little bit more cutesy. Not super cutesy, but yeah, not quite as universally, I don't know, appreciated, I guess. Yeah, Biff, Chip, and Kipper are just such good characters that it's a good range for that. Yeah.
I'm looking for a series that is basically just present tense for first year junior high, that they can really just read a lot because it's in present tense. But
Oxford Read and Imagine.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
You did buy some of those, but yeah.
And I'd have to check. Yes, unfortunately, the Peapod readers are in the other room, but they do have that kind of simple present tense readers, so that's quite useful too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Pat, you're saying something about, what was it, vocabulary?
Well, you were talking about vocabulary study. I saw you had a textbook that was out, and I was just curious if you had any recommendations.
Yes, we super young learners, Oxford Picture Dictionary. Then moving on to the 1,200 Key English Words series, which is okay. There's 3 books in that series. But then, like for junior, senior high school and adults, we use the 4,500 Key English Words series from Seed Learning, and that is very good. Paul Nation, and I'm not sure if this is super secret, but there is the next level is coming out hopefully this year or early next year. The 7,000 Key English Words book series, which I've been literally waiting for like 6 or 7 years for them to finally be able to get that. So I'm very, very happy about that coming soon, hopefully.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. Just seeing if there's anything else in the, I think it's probably all the.
So Sandra, with the reading, with the longer books, do the kids have 10 minutes to read or something, and then the next week they just continue where they left off, or do they take the books home, or?
Well, we read in class for the younger readers, for the younger learners, but then it's usually reading at home. So, and yes, every week they just choose new books and we get feedback on what they've read. So it's, yeah, just always a pile of books coming in and going out.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I think that's all that's in the chat anyway.
I've got a Mercari question.
Oh, yes.
So you mentioned there are some legitimate, like, used books available, and there's some people selling cheap knockoffs. And a lot of times we just have kind of the pictures to go from. So what's your process for going, this is somebody I'm going to buy for, this person's not legit? What tips you off?
Okay, well, if it's a single book, it's most likely not a knockoff. If it's a series of books, and especially if it's plastic wrapped, it's usually from China. So that being said, there's, I mean, I don't know if it's illegal. I'm not sure what the story is. It's certainly not illegal in China. And some of the quality is okay. It's on par with what you can buy regularly. I tend to avoid it, but quite frankly, if there's no other way I can get the books, I have bought those kind of series Sometimes I might buy it and see if it's any good and then try and get it through a publisher. I got stung on a, what was it? Oxford Alien Adventures, Project X Alien Adventures. I thought it was legit until it arrived and I realized, oh boy, no, that's definitely not very well done. And I actually did contact Oxford and they went to Mercari and didn't get much help. So yeah, and Oxford didn't really do anything for me either. So I'm not quite sure if I'd ever bother doing that again. But yeah, so
I suppose
book,
if you see on that, if you click on the individual seller and what they have for sale and you just see books,
if you just see lots
they're
of
probably
series, there's a lot of people selling those. Not just Mercari, also Facebook groups. There are what is it, Books Garage Sale Japan or things like that, that you can find those knockoff books, but also legit people trying to sell their, you know, kids' old books and that kind of thing. So that's another place that you can find them. Yeah.
I think there's also some books that are not necessarily knockoffs, but they're printed for a different market to be sold with a different price structure. So like books printed in China for China to be sold at this Chinese price that are imported in,
The ones
which
that
I
are,
think is another
yeah.
part of the resellers.
Well, there's definitely like a market where they have books that have what's it called, the Maya pen, which is the kind of like the Oxford pen for every book in China, so that you can get the audio for them. Those are definitely have been made for the Chinese market, and they are, I think, pirated, but it's very common and widespread. That most often the ones that are here, they're definitely, everything is made to look like something that you would buy locally here. There's no Chinese on there. There's nothing to sort of warn you that it might be something that's not perhaps that good. But like I say, some of the qualities has been okay. I try and avoid it as much as I can, but like I say, if it's the only way I can get a book, I don't know, it's a bit of a gray area. I'm not quite sure what to do about it. So yeah.
Speaking of gray areas, the school that I was at had a pretty nice way of supplying audio for students that maybe might be a gray area, but they kept all the audio for all of the books on the school's server.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to look for, yeah.
And there was a QR code within each physical book that went to the audio for that book. So only the student who physically had the book could scan it to hear the audio. But that way we didn't have students scratching CDs and stuff like that.
That's what I am wanting to do. I want to have a QR code on each book that students can just like bloop, get that, listen to it on their phone, and have it limited so that it's not widely, you know, out there. I don't want to break any laws with doing any of this sort of stuff. And unfortunately, I think some of the laws are quite restrictive in Japan when it comes to audio. And I've seen so many discussions with other school owners and people who have extensive reading libraries about this, trying to work out how to get around this. Some people are just
if you're interested,
whatever.
Ryan Hageland at my English school, he's the one that was running QR codes that way. So
yeah,
maybe pick his brain sometime.
Well, that's definitely, I mean, that's very high on my list of when I get the extra hours of my day to be able to do that. But definitely, I really, really want to get some extensive listening happening. I think it really complements the reading a lot. So it just forces people to pace themselves, not skip over so much, and also get used to hearing a lot more English. So, yeah.
And for some of the lower level books, the sound effects and stuff that are there also kind of, like you said, slow the students down so that they can kind of integrate what they just heard into what's going on in the story rather than just racing to the next word all the time.
Exactly. And the way that a lot of publishers have their own apps. So, and that drives me nuts. You know, you have to download an app and you can only go through the app to get to the audio. And I just think that's really annoying. If at least if I have a CD, I can, you know, make that digitally available. But having all the individual apps can be very annoying. But some of them, like the Vera the Alien Hunter series, which is really good, and yeah, they've got great sound effects, and it's fun, and it's actually a free app you can actually use to go along with it, which is really good. But I really want one place where I can just scan something and listen. One day it will be able to happen. So yes. And yes, Roman, that's right. The new series often have the audio online, but once again, you have to go through the publisher's app, or sometimes you can download the audio. Some publishers are very good like that, but a lot of them are very protective of the audio. I mean, I can understand, but I definitely want to do something more with that. Yeah. Very good.
Okay, this is not in the chat, but we have somebody new with us today, Wasana. And there.
Hi, Wasana.
Hello. Hello,
Where
everyone.
Where are you joining us from?
Actually, I'm from Sri Lanka, but I'm in Japan, in Chiba, these days.
Chiba, okay.
Yes.
Lovely. And yes, I'm happy to help in any way if you're wanting to. You're doing some studying on extensive reading programs?
Yeah, actually, I'm doing a research under the supervision of Professor Naoko Monoi at Chiba University. So with her guidance, I selected extensive reading to do as a case study. So I'm looking for different extensive reading programs for my case study. So I think Jean has, she has accepted my invitation, and I'm so happy about that, and I'm looking for another extensive reading. And Sandra, if you like to let me to study your extensive program, that it will be really helpful for my study.
Of course, anything I can do to help.
Thank you.
Wasana, are you limited to extensive reading in English? Because we have some people here that are working with extensive reading in Japanese and in French as well today.
I'm not quite sure about that, but I can ask it from my professor. But I think in any language it would be fine, actually.
That's very good. Yes, Roman, actually, if you are here and listening, I think you are somewhere lurking out there. I had another suggestion. Hello. Because I discovered something which was kind of interesting, which is I subscribe to Twinkle. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. It's like one of those places where people upload worksheets and things like that you can download and use to, do Halloween crosswords or that kind of thing. Well, I discovered that they also have ebook selections there, and they also have French language ebooks available there. So have a look. I think I subscribed for a year just to see what we could get out of it. I think it's about 10,000 yen a year or something like that. But they had some French language materials. So I know that ebooks are part of what you are doing. So recommend you check it out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't see any other languages, just English and French. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but I'm happy about it. So yes, Twinkle, TWINKL. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed the beginning of your presentation. I thought the event started at 7:30, and and I missed most of it.
That's okay. It will be available on YouTube later, so
Good.
you'll be able to catch the beginning.
And I still have to book for a tour of your library and your school.
Yes, please come and visit us. It will be absolutely lovely. I know you're very busy getting back into it all, and yes, kids back at school, I assume. So
Yeah.
yes.
But yeah, we'll meet.
Hey, you can always combine it with a nice bike ride up the Kamo River.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Get your
And
exercise while you're doing it.
And at the moment we actually have shaved ice. So I bought a shaved ice
wow.
machine. So we had shaved ice week at the school. So everybody got shaved ice, and I've got so much syrup. I'm trying to give it away. You know, everyone, would you like shaved ice? Because I mean, it's just literally water, but I've got all the syrup that I need to do something with. So please come for a bike ride and have some shaved ice.
Sounds very nice. I had one or two questions. Maybe you already talked about it, but I wasn't there. So how often do you add new books to your library, and how do you publicize it? How do you let the students know about it?
Books are added regularly and sporadically. I don't know. It's whenever I have time to order things, and I've got piles of books that are waiting to be processed. So books that are on the shelves have word counts, but there are some books that don't have word counts, so we count the words, and that means time, so they tend to sit around. I'm sure you can relate.
Yeah.
So you know, we have our word counting. Yes, there we go. Yep, me too. So yes, we use these.
Thanks to
Yeah.
you. We all bought one.
Yes. Well, actually, I bought
Spanish colleagues too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You can buy them in a pack of 5. I got one good quality one, and then I've got like 5 different colored ones. The kids, but when they get hold of it, they're just like click, 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 click. Terrible. But yes, counting the words. So there are new books going into the library every month, would be the quickest way to say that. Especially when there are ongoing series of books. So whenever a new one in that series comes out, we'll get it. So like the I Talk, You Talk Press books published, they come out regularly, so we'll always get the new ones when they come out, or one of the new Dogman book if the kids want the new Dogman book. So yes, that's regularly.
And do you have quizzes for your books, or no? Okay, you don't do
No
that.
quizzes, no book reports. It is purely reading for fun and interest and enjoyment. If you don't like something, then you just have to let us know, and we won't make anyone read something because they have to read it.
Yeah.
And that can be difficult, like with motivation, especially teenagers. You can get real problems with trying to trying to encourage them to read when they are so swamped with all the work that they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's can be a problem. But we also, because it's a long-term thing, we know that they're going to go through spells of, I haven't read anything this week. They'll go through that. And then when they're feeling slightly less stressed, then they'll be reading more. And we can see the dips and the troughs and the peaks. And we just try and think of the big picture rather than getting too stressed about.
Yeah.
But yeah, no quizzes or anything like that. But of course, university, you kind of have to have something to show for it, don't you? So yeah, we don't.
Okay. Do they keep track of how many books they read or things like that?
Yeah, younger readers have a little notebook, and for everybody, including the younger readers, we keep all the word counts and books in a spreadsheet. So
I believe
Yeah.
it's something Japanese students are familiar with because in the elementary school my daughters goes to, they have this dokusho noto, so this reading notebook or something. So and like their homework for holidays is like read 10 books and write a few lines about each of them. So they know that, except they don't do it in a foreign language usually, but I'm sure
Yeah,
they're
we use the SEG Taroku Techos from SEG Juku, and the some schools actually do use those. I know that a couple of schools in Kyoto actually have their students using those same notebooks for what they call extensive reading, but I mean, they don't read that much. So when they come here, they're reading like, you know, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 times what they're reading at school. So yeah, but they do use those notebooks. So yeah.
one more question, if I may. Okay, you have a huge collection. How do you make recommendations? Like, I know you can do like personal recommendation based on what each of your students like, but do you have like, because I try to have like weekly recommendations based on some topics. Do you do similar things?
Sometimes when we get new books in the library, I will make a little Facebook post, though quite frankly, haven't done much of that. It's been very busy, always. But usually I know the books. All the books come through me. So when the students it comes time for them to choose books, I know roughly where they're reading. I will grab piles of books from that area. Sometimes, especially younger students, you know, they'll go through a dinosaur phase. So we'll make sure they read every book about dinosaurs we have. Or one student was really into plants, grade 4 student. And so he read all the books about plants, which was, that's the first time I've had that one. But generally speaking, it's just me knowing the books. I've read not everything, but I've read enough that I can make recommendations. So yeah.
I was thinking like, if you have like, I don't know, monthly recommendation or something, one of the good effect is that it can encourage different students to read in the same range of books, and so they could be able to talk about it without, you know, having you forcing everybody to read the same book, but you know.
Yeah, no, that's definitely good, though. Because we have such different levels, you know, from like our youngest student is grade 1, first grader, and the oldest student is adult, and I won't divulge her age. So because we have a huge range of ages and also English ability, it's very hard to make a monthly recommendation, because if you want to recommend a book and then, you know, a grade 2 student, it's just way beyond them, or doesn't quite, yeah, there's very few series that are suitable for all levels, though the one about food, culture readers food, that was being popular all levels, that we talked about when we were doing our session on greater readers we recommend, which you can check out on YouTube. But yeah, it's trying to be able to recommend books. That's actually a big part of the well, not the problem, but I know like Leslie Ito talks about book whispering, sort of introducing the start of a book in class to try and sort of sell the book a little bit, sort of like, this book here, and you read a little bit, and it kind of draws attention to that book. So that's one method that some people use. And I do have to do that a bit with online students, so they can't pick up and read the books. So I hold them up and then read a little bit about each one just to help guide them. So yeah, book whispering is one way of thinking about it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sandra, you mentioned before that you have kind of small sets of books that the students choose from rather than from the full library.
Students don't just run into the room and go through things. Well, some do, but generally speaking, they come into the room and we have like grab a pile from a series, not all of them, but a pile, and then say, okay, here, have a look through there. Or these ones, I think you'll really like this, or you were reading this series, so here's the next one from that series. So always giving them choice is really, really big part of what we do. We want to make sure that they choose the books. We're not choosing any of the books for them.
But choosing from the full library, the students can easily be paralyzed by choice and
exactly
1 or 2 hours and they still haven't selected a book.
Exactly. And we
So
have one,
that small set really helps.
yeah, we have one student who's on the spectrum, so book selection can be a bit challenging with him. Like, he reads, but he'll get very, like, he wants to read about these things, and it can be very hard, even with a pile of books, for him to choose one. And we find having less choice for him is a lot easier than having too much choice. So yeah, they ultimately have to do the choosing themselves, but we have to provide a framework for them to be able to do it comfortably. And yes, if you have too much, too overwhelming. So yeah. Now, what were you saying about the audio, Pat? What was that?
We already talked about that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But you mentioned earlier about wanting to upgrade your system, that it's starting to get a little bit onerous. So like maybe moving to a full-on database like Access or something like that. But something you might be able to do is reach out to Kyoto Sangyo, kind of like what Mark was doing with students at Shinshu University. Is students in the computer science department were making systems for extensive reading. They weren't doing extensive reading, but their thing was building computer systems.
That is what I need and what I want. Absolutely.
And universities, they want their students solving real problems.
Yeah, I really would like that. If anyone knows anybody who is teaching in those kind of departments, please let me know. One, I should mention that Leslie Ito in Nagoya has a system called Lixin Library, and she sells that. I think it's a monthly subscription, and that's a very good system. A lot of small schools use her system. Barcodes from the back of the book, ping, and it puts it into a database, and they use it as an attendance record too for eikaiwa, and that works very, very well. I did consider it, but it didn't quite meet what I need to do with the book, so I didn't go down that route. But definitely I want to get somebody to make me a system. I'm sure it's not that difficult if you know what you're doing. So yeah. If anyone
I think
knows
maybe an undergrad or a grad student at Kyoto Sangyo might be able to hook you up as part of one of their projects.
Yes, but how do you make contact? That's the key. So anyone who knows anyone, please contact me, 3.tigers.english@gmail.com. Let me know, because that would make my life a lot better if I could, yes, go beyond the unwieldy Excel spreadsheet that I have now. It was never intended to be always in Excel. I was always wanting to do something, but I just, don't have enough time. So, yeah.
I don't know anybody that's in the computer science area, but there might be a few people that were working on the Pan-SIG committee last year that are teaching there. Amanda Gillis Furutaka is retired now, but she had been teaching there up until last year.
Yes, I should.
Are you going to the JALT conference? And
No.
No, okay.
No,
That's the great opportunity to to meet people there and ask about it. Yeah.
It would be, but unfortunately, I'm a bit busy at school, so
Yeah.
Mark Brierley might be a good person to talk with. Because even if he doesn't know, he might know like what type of people, because he's done these types of projects.
Yes. Okay, I should definitely, yeah, because you're quite right. That I think trying to find, a grad student, someone who's doing a project, somebody who needs experience, I think that definitely is the way to go. So, yes, that would be my dream, to be able to have a nice, proper library system. That would be like the pinnacle of my library achievements, I think. Being able to organize it all. One day.
Oh, I know my university does work with individual companies and businesses as part of like community outreach. So the fact that it's benefiting a specific business entity is not necessarily a barrier. I think it would just be that whatever system they make is also available for them to share with the world.
Yeah, and I mean, I would be quite happy. I don't need to have like a proprietary system. I just want something that works and does what I want it to do. So I want to be able to type something in like plants and for it to tell me what books I have in this YL range about plants. So I want to be able to tag topics and have a little bit more control of searching through all the books. I mean, I'm lucky I do know a lot of them, but you know, I'm not the only teacher, and it would be nice to have a system that would help her, because she doesn't really know the books as well as I do. So
yeah, it's kind of hard to do an orientation program where you get a new teacher up to speed on 9,000 books.
it is, though generally, I mean, like, you know, we're in series, so once you've read one Dogman, you really don't need to read all the other ones. One Dragon Master's book, that'll do it. Don't really need to read the other ones. So you know, there's a bit of that. But yes, trying to bring somebody up to speed with all the books is a bit daunting.
So just to recap, Sandra, because I missed the first part, and I feel like I was at the beach the past 2 days. I think I took in too much sun or something. But so with the older kids, they don't read in the classroom. They take the books home, and then you sort of ask them at the beginning of their next class, hey, did you guys read any books? And if they did, you personally put them into your Excel program. They don't have a reading card or anything like that.
The older students don't have a reading book, only for elementary, but not for returnees, because they're reading a different kind of way. So really just the younger readers and beginners.
But the older kids also read.
Oh, everybody reads, but
so the older kids read, and they just come back and tell you, hey, I read.
Yeah, well, they give me the books, and we put them back, check them back in, and then choose the books and put that into the spreadsheet. Yeah, and we do, the older students do read mostly at home, but we always have like 5 minutes or so at the end of the class where we might grab a small quick picture book, like Fly Guy is really good for that. If you've ever seen the Fly Guy series, very popular and very good. We either do a quick reading kind of quick book, or maybe play a quick game. So we do like playing games, you know, the Ready, Set, Ago, or the Ago, you know, the Uno type Ago game, that kind of thing. So, or Speed Ludo has been another popular one. So we do games or reading at the end of class quite often. Okay, I think nobody else has any questions. No? Okay, all right. Well, perhaps I'll end this section of the proceedings. So thank you all for coming, and hope to see you all soon.
Thank you. It was really interesting to hear about all that you're doing.